Let's be honest, we've all done it. Scrolling on social media and coming across that gorgeous plant and convincing ourselves that it's the missing piece in our collection. All of a sudden, it's not a want, it's a need. And we find ourselves knee-deep in Google searches, comparing sellers, and often spending way too much money just to get that plant. We've all done it. I have certainly done it. I have been influenced. But has it always been worth it? Today, I thought I would take you through 10 plants that over the years I have indeed been influenced to buy and whether or not they lived up to the hype. But first, if you're new here, hi, my name's Claire and this is Yoli. I make videos all about houseplant care, sharing tips and tricks I've learned over the years to help keep your plants happy and healthy. And before we get into it, I just want to give credit where it's due to my friend Emma, aka Good Growing, who started an influence series over on her YouTube channel. It is absolutely amazing and I will link it down below, but it has very much inspired this video. So yes, I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. So, as always, these plants are in no particular order, but the one that I'm going to start with is probably one of the first plants I was ever influenced to buy, and it is the Anthurium warocqueanum, and you can probably see why. It's obviously a very beautiful plant. It takes a very pretty picture, it looks very gorgeous on an Instagram feed, and I remember coming across this plant, I think probably early lockdown days, and seeing a photo of it and just being like, oh my goodness, that plant is like something out of this world. I must have that plant. And in case also it's not obvious, this is not the exact plant. I have had several warocqueanums since then, and we will get on to that. But I didn't do a lot of research. I just hopped on a Google search and I came across a fairly, I say cheap, one that was a good price at the time. I think it was about £50 for a warocqueanum. And it was on Etsy, and I just remember this Etsy listing having a complete mix, this Etsy shop, of good and bad reviews. Some were amazing and some were awful. And I was just like, you know what, I'm going to take the risk because I really want this plant. And knowing nothing actually about the species, I jumped in, I spent the 50, 60 quid, whatever it was, and I got this warocqueanum. And I was so happy when it arrived. I remember taking it out of its box and just being like, oh my God, I can't believe I finally got this plant. But social media doesn't really tell you much about what the plant requires in order to stay looking happy. And so that was one of, I think, probably 4 or 5 warocqueanums I've had over the years that haven't made it. That one died a death fairly quickly. And initially when my first warocqueanum died, the one that I got from the dodgy Etsy seller, I kind of thought to myself, all right, I'm putting that down to the seller. It came with a bit of an iffy root system, like the leaves were already a little bit discoloured, and I was like, that's why I didn't get on well with the plant. And I'd like to think still that that is kind of the case. However, over the years, I have tried again, and I have tried again, and I have tried again with the warocqueanum, and it's never been a plant that I feel I can get on board with. I just find it a really difficult one to grow, and I have grown such a vast, but I'm by no means an expert, but I have grown a lot of very quote unquote like difficult, finicky plants over the years, and this has always been one that I've really struggled to get my head around and therefore have ended up killing lots of them. Yet again, I think because of the beauty of this plant and because I see so many people growing it well on social media, again, maybe these people aren't growing it well, maybe they are taking a picture of it the day it arrives in the post and making everyone believe that they're growing it really well, I don't know. But because I see it pop up all the time, it is one that I have kind of yearned for again and again over the years, and I've really wanted to get right. And I had an Anthurium warocqueanum, again, not this one, when I first moved in here to this house, which was about 7-8 months ago now, and I repotted it as one of my first repots in this new space, and I was like, fingers crossed, this is now setting the plant up for success. And within a couple of months, that plant had died. And I kind of said to myself, that's it. I'm done for the time being. I'm going to just ignore the social media pictures that are popping up, and I'm just going to really focus on what I've got, and at some point when I feel ready, I will try again. And then actually a couple of very funny things happened in quick succession. I went to Wisley with one of my friends. Wisley is basically this incredible, it's kind of like a little mini Kew Gardens. It's got a beautiful glass house with tropical plants, and it's also got this insanely great garden centre. I went there with one of my friends about a month ago now, and she came over to me with this teeny tiny little plant in her hand, and she was like, Claire, look. And I was like, what's that? And she was like, it's a baby warocqueanum, and it was only £8. And that is what you are seeing here. And I was like, you know what? I was like, maybe trying this plant from a baby wouldn't be such a bad idea. Maybe I could really get to know it from a young age, and I could kind of, I don't know, it just felt like a better approach to take. So I got it, and touch wood, so far it is actually going really well this time around. It's starting to really size up quickly already. It's putting out lots of new leaves. I actually feel finally, I don't want to jinx it, but I finally feel like maybe I'm turning a corner with this plant. However, literally in the same week, one of you guys on my Patreon very kindly decided to, through Grow Tropicals, who's one of my favourite plant shops, send me a more mature warocqueanum, which was so lovely of you. Honestly, I am unbelievably grateful. I've spoken so much about my struggles with this plant, so you obviously thought, like, come on, give it another go. And I think in a way, I don't know, I feel like it's a good time for me to be trying again, because I have properly mixed things up in the way that I'm growing this plant now. And I know this is not what the video is about, but I have really kind of taken measures to grow them in slightly different conditions. I'm growing one over there, I'm growing one by the window, so one under grow lights, one with natural light. I'm kind of trying new weird and wonderful things with pots and substrates, and yeah, so right now, I feel like it's worth it. It's one that's been worth it for me, but if you'd asked me that 6-7 months ago, I would say no, it hasn't. I feel like the two warocqueanums that have come into my life recently have been off the back of social media influences, but have almost just kind of happened at a time that I'm not prepared for them in the same way as I have been before, which I think is keeping me on my toes more. And I think it is a good thing. So overall, would I say I have been positively influenced by social media with this plant? I don't think I would. I don't think I would. I think I should have done way more research. I should have probably not ever brought this type of plant into my collection at a time where I was feeling overwhelmed with the plants I already had. I should have been way more prepared to mix up my ways of growing. And I will always think it's a beautiful plant. And I do hope that this time around I will be able to keep these ones alive, and this will be like the thing that means that now I can grow this plant. But if I was going back and speaking to my younger self when I first saw this plant on social media, I would personally be advising against it. And then this next one is a plant that I really don't talk about very much, and it's a bit of an awkward one to show because it comes out at so many angles, but it is the Philodendron spiritus sancti. And oh my goodness, if you have ever been on planty social media, you will know the hype around this plant. Like, there was a point, I think about 1.5 2 years ago, where everyone was just after a spiritus sancti. It was kind of like the gold standard in the social media world of having like a great plant collection. And I very much succumbed to that. I saw it and I was like, oh my goodness, again, it ticks loads of boxes. It's got those lovely long kind of loby leaves. It's got, just everything about it. From the pictures that I saw, really sold this plant to me. And I got this one from Downtown Plant Club, I think probably about a year ago now-ish. And yeah, I was amazed when I first got the plant, and I have enjoyed growing it. But I think, like I say, it's one I don't talk about very much. And I think partly the reason for that is that I think it just looks a bit raggedy. That's my honest opinion. Like, if I don't know, I'm kind of showing you it up close so it doesn't look quite as straggly and sparse as it does maybe in real life. I have it hanging in one of my windows, and I feel like I will enjoy this plant more, which, oh God, I'm just listening to myself saying this. I feel like I will enjoy this plant more when it looks more like the pictures that I saw of it on Instagram. When it starts kind of really sizing up and giving me beautiful, really like big leaves. Not that these leaves aren't big, but it's just currently not giving me the fix that I thought it would. And I think that's just because it looks a little bit more realistic. Like, it's had pest dramas. I've had thrips on this plant so many times. I haven't found a great way to grow it to actually kind of display it well, like I'm showing you now, because it just gets in the way because it's so like out there and crashes into other plants and stuff. So although I'm glad that I have this plant and I am very much sticking with it with this plant, yes, again, I would say probably this is a social media influence that if I'd seen this plant just out and about and I hadn't seen other pictures of it, I probably wouldn't have got it. Oh, and I don't know, that's almost surprising to hear myself say, because it's still one that I feel grateful to own, but I feel like I'm more looking forward to what it's going to look like in a year's time as opposed to actually appreciating it right now, you know? And I know as well, again, social media wise, you see like nowadays there's lots of like variegated spiritus sanctis and stuff like that. Personally, I don't even particularly like the look of the variegated one, but because it's photographed so well and because it looks so shiny and desirable, and there's a part of me that has gone, oh, maybe I should get that. And actually, no, I don't think I should. I really don't think I should. So yeah, it's not one that I don't like, and it's not one that I would contemplate parting ways with, but I feel like the excitement of the thought of the plant was way more exciting than actually owning the plant, you know? And another one that I don't talk about very often because it never really seems to be doing much is this one, the Alocasia longiloba silver. And I've got to say, in the last kind of 3-4 months, this is the best this plant has looked in my time of owning it. When I first got it, it was really quite small and it had about 4 or 5 little leaves, and the plant, honestly, it didn't do anything for such a long time. I typically consider myself definitely not an alocasia expert, but I do consider myself pretty good with alocasias. I've got loads of different species in my collection, and I thought this one would kind of be a walk in the park. Little did I know. Not that it's been difficult per se, but getting it to actually size up has been quite tricky. And all of a sudden I noticed that loads of the little leaves it had were starting to die off, and lo and behold, this ginormous leaf shot up. And don't get me wrong, it's gorgeous, but it's still not like the pictures that I saw when I was first thinking about getting this plant. I don't want to say anticlimactic, but it's a little bit anticlimactic, and it hasn't done anything since then. Like, this has been the only leaf this plant's had. There's still no sign of it even attempting to put out another one. So I have a feeling it might be one of those alocasias that always just has 1 or 2 leaves. And I don't know, I'm trying to work out if that, for me as a plant person, is rewarding enough to keep the plant long term. I think I'm still kind of living in the novelty mindset of, oh my God, I can't believe it's finally done this. So at the moment, I have no thoughts about getting rid of the plant, but it's hard to say how I will feel about this in 6 months' time if, again, it's done nothing. I know I've got an alocasia next to me here, my Alocasia Green Shield, which I've spoken about so many times before in videos, because this plant never has more than about 3 leaves, and I've had this one for about 5 years now, and I've said so many times, I am bored of it now. I'm just bored of it. I appreciate the fact it's a gorgeous plant, but it's one that just doesn't really give me that much reward back. And for me, it's changed so much over the years, but plant care is such a interactive thing. I like to feel like I am putting in what I've got and my plants are giving me something back, and I'm able to really watch them grow and change and develop, and it doesn't just feel like we're very stuck. And that's how I feel with the Green Shield. I don't feel that way about this one yet, and who knows, maybe it will surprise me. but I'm just currently a little bit skeptical. So yeah, I know I'm sounding very negative Nancy in this video, but I would say currently this one has been a plant where the online hype did slightly override the reality. Who knows, that might change, but considering we are now coming out of the other side of growing season and all summer it's done nothing, I kind of feel like we might be a little bit stuck. So we'll see, but that is currently how I feel about it. Okay, and this next one is also an alocasia, one that I have banged on so much about. And this is one that I was influenced to buy and I don't regret. It is the Variegated Alocasia sarian, and I will put pictures on the screen of what this one looks like when it's big and mature, because oh my goodness, the sarian is just an alocasia that blows my mind. It's Zebrina cross Mitchellitziana, I believe, and obviously it's got these gorgeous kind of zebra-y, kind of stripy stems, and then it's got the beautiful dark veination. And if I'm being honest, I actually wasn't out to get a variegated one. I'd never even seen a variegated one. I just wanted a standard alocasia sarian. But then I saw on, again, Etsy, but a good reliable seller on Etsy, I saw that they had been in tissue culture and you could now get a variegated one. And when I first got it, I think it had 1 or 2 leaves that were about that big. It was such a tiny, tiny, tiny thing. And I was really scared about this plant. The seller said to me when I was first thinking about getting one, I messaged him and he was like, okay, if I can give you any advice at all, don't go for a highly variegated one. He was like, this type of plant in itself is quite a difficult one. You're going to make your life 10 times harder if you go with one that's like half moon variegation or just has a very high balance of white. So I didn't actually go for the plants that I wanted to originally go for. I went for one with a little bit more green. As I say, for me, the variegation was never the big thing. I just wanted a sarian. So yeah, I really have no regrets, and that's a really nice thing to be able to say. Obviously, it is still quite a small plant, although it is sizing up very quickly now it's got going. It's still quite a small plant, and I've had it less than a year. I've had it, I think about 8 months actually, around about the time I moved in here again. So there's still time for things to go wrong, but it is one that has really brought me so much joy. I've just really, like, every new leaf feels like a reward. It's been fairly fast to grow now that it's got going as well. Yeah, it's just one that I actually would really, if you feel experienced with alocasias, one that I would really recommend because, yeah, I still feel very lucky to own this plant. So, yay, a positive one for the first time in this video. And another one that I was very much influenced to buy, and if you are on social media and if you are a Hoya person, you will definitely remember the hype with this plant. It is the Hoya wilbur graves, and I have had this one probably about 4 years now, and this is what it's looking like. It's obviously quite a small plant for one that I've owned for that amount of time, and I think the wilbur graves is a very beautiful Hoya. I really do. I think it's undeniably gorgeous, and I know some people have had amazing experiences with it and it's just grown like a weed. Maybe some of this is down to me. In fact, I'm certain that a lot of this is down to me, but I just haven't had the best experience with it. And I think a lot of the things that have gone wrong with this plant for me, like for example, I got it as unrooted cuttings, again, I think from Etsy. I had a couple of sections rot when I first got them in as they were rooting. I then got root mealybugs on the plant and left it way too long before I did anything about it because I didn't realise that's what was going on. I chopped the whole plant up, I put it in sphagnum moss. I have been on a bit of a journey with this plant over the years. But I think the reason that this plant hasn't done better for me is because I saw pictures on social media of the plant looking amazing, and when I got it, the reality of owning that plant just wasn't as exciting or motivating for me, so I haven't put in the effort. I haven't put in the effort that I could have done in order to actually get the best out of this plant, which is a real shame. So yeah, I recently chopped the whole thing up for God knows the 10th time I've done since having it, and I water propagated it all. I've potted it in semi-hydro, and again, I am starting again with the plants. I still think it's lovely, but I think as well, because I succumbed to the trend of the wilbur graves and that, oh my goodness, I must have this plant, because I fell into that trap a while ago, I maybe wasn't as aware of other types of plants, not just Hoyas even, but other types of plant, other types of Hoya, that might have ticked a lot of the boxes for me that I was hoping the wilbur graves to tick. Like, I've now got lots of other types of plants that are very splashy and are very silvery, and like, I almost don't need this one anymore, if that makes sense. That sounds horrible, and I always feel really bad when I talk about a plant when it's right here. So yeah, it doesn't give me the same excitement as it did when I first got it. I think it never really gave me the excitement that I thought it would, basically. So again, I have recently just had a very big clear out of my collection, and I've got rid of lots of things, and I've been really quite brutal with my choices, and as you can see, it is one that I still do have in my collection, and I currently don't plan on parting with. But I must say, out of everything in my collection, it's one of the plants that would probably lift out quite easily if I had to get rid of a couple of things. The reason mainly that I'm holding on to it right now is because at some point soon, I'll be talking about it for ages, but at some point I really hope to transform my Millsbo IKEA cabinet into like a massive terrarium cabinet and have lots of epiphytic plants kind of climbing the back wall. And I think this would be a lovely one to do it with. So yeah. It hasn't met the expectations that I hoped it would. However, it's one that I'm going to hang on to for a bit longer. And this was another relatively recent influence. I say relatively recent, I think probably just over a year ago now, but it is the Anthurium Delta Force. And I got this one when I was living at my old flat as a teeny tiny seedling. It was around the kind of like, not the initial boom of the Delta Force, because they were extortionately expensive then, but it was when the Delta Force first went into tissue culture and was able to be sold for like less than £200, and everyone was like, oh my god, it's now an accessible plant. I can't remember exactly how much I paid for it, but I think I paid about £100, and it was about that big. It had like the tiniest leaves at that point. So it was a bit of a gamble, but I was like, it's beautiful and I want it because I think I should want it. Honestly, I think if it had just been an Anthurium that I had seen and it wasn't, I've never really thought about it this way. But I wonder, actually, if I had just seen it and it had been almost like the Clarinervium, one that like anyone could have, you could maybe pick one up for a tenner. I don't know if I would have felt the same way about it. Which just goes to show how much social media gets in your head. That's not to say, however, that I don't love it. I've had a bit of an up and downy journey with this plant. It hasn't been the most straightforward for me. As you can probably tell, these two leaves here have got a lot of pest damage on them, and this one had thrips really, really badly recently. It's just started giving me this leaf here, which I think is probably going to be one of its first kind of more mature leaves, and fortunately it doesn't have any damage on it at all. So it's one that I'm really enjoying growing, and I think that now the price is dropping on it. If you like the plants, then yeah, absolutely give it a go. But yeah, as I just said, I don't think I would have felt the same way as I feel about it now if I maybe hadn't had it marketed to me in the way that it was. Because that is all social media is. It is just marketing. It's people going, oh my god, look at this thing that I've got, whether it's a plant, whether it's clothes, whether it's food, whatever it is. It's people showing how great something is and making you believe that that thing is also great. And I know I fall into that trap. Like, I know there's been so many things, not just plants, that over the years I've seen on social media and I've gone, oh my goodness, well, okay, let's give that a go. And I know, working in the world of social media, doing YouTube, every time I say to you guys, this plant's amazing, I'm sure it influences you, and I'm sorry about that. I never go in with marketing intentions, but it's just the weird old world we live in, isn't it? So yeah, I do love it. I do really like it. I haven't found it, bar the pest issues, I haven't found it massively difficult to grow. Actually, in the last, I think the last week or so, a couple of weeks, I have for the first time given it a proper pot. I was just growing it in sphagnum moss before then in like a little hummus jar. So yeah, it's kind of acclimating to its new growing conditions, and I really hope this helps it to size up, and yeah, I hope it does well. It is one that I love, but yeah, it was one that I was massively influenced by. Also, there has been debate between some of you guys as to whether or not this is actually a true Delta Force, or if it's actually just a hybrid of the same, I think it's Clarinervium pedatori, I don't know, whatever the other one is. Because obviously to be a true Delta Force, that is just a variant of the species that has gone into tissue culture and has been cloned. I believe I have got a true Delta Force purely for the fact that I know and I trust the Etsy shop that I got it from. In fact, it's the same Etsy shop that I got my variegated sarian from. I've bought from there. It's called the Eden Lab on Etsy. I've bought from there loads and loads of times before. But yeah, I guess we will see as the plant gets older. But yeah, another very much influenced by. Oh, and I feel bad talking about this one because this is a plant that I had on my wish list for such a long time before I actually got. And for me, I must say it has not been worth it. It is the Scindapsus tricolor, and I have spoken about this plant for years on my channel. I think I've included it in like 3 or 4 wish list videos that I've made at the beginning of each new year, and I've been like, oh my goodness, it's just so amazing and I just really want that plant. And believe me, like when I first saw it, and I saw it for a fairly good price as well, I think this was Grow Tropicals. In fact, this was Malvern. I got this from Grow Tropicals in Malvern earlier this year, so actually really quite a recent one. I saw it and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that plant that I've been seeing online for all this time is just here in front of me, and oh my goodness, it's actually not that expensive. I think it was maybe about £20-ish. And I was like, well, I must get it because I've been looking at it and I've been admiring it for all this time, and it just hasn't grown in a way that I like. Like, don't get me wrong, its foliage is beautiful. It's very unusual. I think it's very appealing and very lovely to look at. And maybe if I was growing this plant differently, i.e. on a moss pole, it might be responding differently. However, I found that it just puts out these runners, kind of like, in fact there's other types of Scindapsus that I found also do this. The Silver Hero is another one that I find can be so beautiful, but it's just prone to putting out these long stretches of growth that don't have any leaves on at all, that mean the plant just looks very, very bare. And yes, you can keep chopping them back, but it gets to the point where you're creating a very raggedy looking plant. The leaves it's giving me are actually getting smaller and not bigger. And yeah, like I say, I could get it on a moss pole, but I, from what I saw on social media, was not led to believe that this was one that needed to be on a moss pole. I.e., like, there's lots of other types of Scindapsus. I know a lot of you also pull me up on the fact that it's meant to be pronounced Scindapsus. I know, I just say Scindapsus because it's in my head. But there's a lot of other types of Scindapsus that don't need moss poles to grow. Like, I've got my Silverian, I've got my whatever the other one is called, my big one that I recently chopped up. It's not an Argyraeus, but we're going to go with the Argyraeus because that's another one that doesn't need a moss pole, that will just trail beautifully and will just look lovely. And I naively assumed that this one would be the same, and it's obviously not. So I'm actually getting to the point with this plant now where I don't know if I want to grow it anymore. I contemplated getting rid of this one when I was having my clear out recently, and I didn't because I was like, Claire, you've only just got it. Like, you've wanted this plant for such a long time. How sad to be passing this along to someone else already. Like, yeah, so that's the reason that I didn't get rid of it. But I'm starting to think that maybe it's just not the plant for me. So yeah, this is one that I, again, very much influenced by, and I kind of regret. I think that's all I've got to say. I didn't really think about how I would bring this next one over to show you, because it is in a little makeshift reservoir at the moment. Oh, that I have just spilt everywhere. But this is another one that I was influenced to buy. It is my my Musa Florida variegata, and I actually got this one in the same order as my Philodendron spiritus sancti. I got this one from Downtown Plant Club as well, which was about a year ago, I think. Maybe not that long ago, maybe more like 9-10 months ago. But this is another one, a happy one that I was influenced to buy, and I have not for a second regretted. I find this plant incredibly rewarding. Now that it's started growing and I have kind of figured out what it likes and what it doesn't like, I feel like it's one that just constantly keeps me on my toes. It's like throwing out new growth left, right and centre. With every new leaf, it is sizing up so much. And I just am getting so much joy from growing it. So yeah, it is one that I looked at on social media and kind of went, oh wow, maybe that would be nice. But it's one of the rare ones that actually has been. So that's just my personal experience with it. I know there's some people that really struggle with Musa as a genus and specifically this kind of species. I did make like an in-depth breakdown / care video on this plant recently on my channel, and I did say in that video it's one that has quite specific care needs like humidity, light, temperature, water-wise. If you don't get those things right, I think you will have a bit of a nightmare with this plant. So, for example, if you are a complete beginner and you have no idea about Musa as a genus, or you've never grown many plants and you see this one on social media and you go, well, I'll give it a go, maybe you would have a very different experience to me. I don't know, maybe you wouldn't, but I think for someone that's able to provide good tropical kind of stable-ish conditions, I know I live just in a normal house, but I do run grow lights and I do run humidifiers, and I really try and like do all I can to make sure my plants are happy. I think it's been great. I really like it, but like I say, that might not be the case for everyone. But yeah, the thing that really made me laugh with this plant, and actually weirdly made me like the plant more, it just, I don't know, it just gave me a giggle, was when I was looking online at this one before I got it. Someone compared its foliage, and mine isn't like as dramatic as some of the like more mature ones are, but someone compared its foliage to a barcode, and they were like, why would you want a barcode plant? Why do you want one that looks like a barcode? And that really made me laugh, and I actually, weirdly, like now I look at it, always think that, but that hasn't put me off the plant. So yeah, influenced, but don't regret it. Oh, okay, and I wanted to include this next one because although I didn't actually go out and buy it for myself, I know I would have done if I hadn't been sent it. I believe I was actually sent this plant by Grow Tropicals as part of a collaboration video we did about what they believed the next it plants were going to be. And it is the Hoya callistophylla black cat. And I'm covering that section of plants because I have actually potted it with a normal callistophylla. And it's beautiful, it's so gorgeous, and it's one that really kind of made a bit of a spike in trend on social media last year, and everyone was like, oh my goodness, the callistophylla black cat, it's so gorgeous. And I already had the Hoya callistophylla at this point, and if we just have a look at this here, these leaves that are in my hand here, this is the normal callistophylla, and the only difference between these plants is that the callistophylla has slightly thinner veination and it's not quite as shiny and waxy as the callistophylla black cat. You see, this veination looks much more kind of like dark and spread, and it's a little bit more glossy, but realistically you can't really tell the difference. That's why I potted them all up together. I was like, it just makes the plant look more full. And I personally just, now that I've got the black cat, I'm like, get one or the other. You don't, I mean, if you want both, of course buy both. But for me, I'm like, I didn't need to own both of them. There is nothing, no pros or cons really about the black cat that aren't about the typical callistophylla. I just haven't found that my plant collection has felt any different for having the black cat in it. And I know when I started seeing it on social media, I was like, oh my goodness, I was like, it's really lovely. And no, it's so different to my normal callistophylla. And it's not. It's just not. It grows in a very similar way. It looks very similar. And so, yeah, I am not ungrateful to have the plant, but I definitely don't think it's one that I in any way needed. I think really I could have just had a little bit more patience, waited for my normal callistophylla to grow a little bit more full, and then chopped it up and done the same thing and potted it all back in together, and this plant probably would have looked almost exactly the same. So yeah, I think it's I just think it's a plant that has been massively hyped up on social media. And I just think the hype is not particularly worth it, personally. As I say, all of this is my personal experience, my own opinion. I just don't think it's been that worth it. And then finally, number 10, I will tilt the camera up so that you can see this one. In fact, I will stand up and show you this one if you have not been on my channel before and you don't know how much I love this plant. It is the Anthurium pallidiflorum, and oh my goodness, a plant that I was 100% influenced by, and I ogled over that plant for well, like years before I actually finally got it. And again, this is one that when I saw on social media, you'd always kind of see it in its big mature form, and it was gorgeous and it was strappy and it like ticked so many boxes. And so when I first got it, I was over the moon when I first got it, don't get me wrong, but when I first got it, it was, I think, about that big, and I was like, oh my goodness, how exciting. And it has lived up to the hype for me, because for me, I know not everyone that owns this plant has felt the same way from some of you guys that I've spoken to, but for me, it has sized up very, very quickly, and it has met the image that I had in my head from social media. It has kind of grown to that in quite a short space of time. I've had it for probably about a year and a half now, and it's gone from that to the size that I just showed you in a very short amount of time. And because I bought it for the image that I saw, the big kind of mature, incredible strappy thing, and because I've got it to that stage, I do feel like it has been totally worth it for me. I'm a little bit now at the point of being like, okay, well now what? And that makes me maybe sound a bit ungrateful, but I think now I've grown it so big, I'm doing a lot of pollinating with that plant at the moment. I pollinated it recently and I got loads of babies from it. But I'm like, where do I go next? Because it's so big, it's almost touching the floor in this room. I'm like, where do I put it? Really, this is the only place light-wise that I can grow. It's without a ton of grow lights. So I'm not quite sure what is now next for that plant, basically. I'm gonna have to rethink a lot of things. However, I still don't regret it. I still think that is one that I was influenced by, that I have zero regrets, and has brought me so much happiness, has been unbelievably rewarding. And so yeah, for those reasons, I would do it again in a heartbeat. But yes, those are the 10 that I brought over to show you for this video, the ones that I was influenced to buy. Actually quite interesting to hear myself talk about them, because I didn't pre-plan this video at all. I was like, I'm just gonna say what I feel and see how I really feel about them. And there's been a few things that I have kind of learned about how I truly feel about the plants as we've been talking. But yeah, do comment down below some of the plants that you guys were influenced to buy. Let me know whether or not you think they were worth it. If you've also got some of the ones that I've spoken about in this video, do you agree? Do you feel the same? I'd be really interested to know. But yeah, if you did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.
Stay sexy, plant lovers.